liaison with administration. So that's a good place that we can kind of talk about how our units are functioning or concerns we have with care or just administrative stuff, and he can transmit that up to higher people. Um,
Mhm.
and then all of our offices are in the same general proximity. Um, so I frequently talk with my more senior colleagues to just kind of get their opinions on the treatments that they've used or seen, or just to
Mhm.
obtain kind of mentorship about some more challenging cases as I continue to, uh, being relatively new in my role, to continue to uh, develop over time. And it's been good. We have a good mix of staff in terms of their level of experience. People who've been here a few years and um, people who've been here, you know, decade plus. So it's good to have that variety.
That's really cool. And I remember you mentioned earlier the mentorship you received that kind of drew you to psychiatry in the first place. What are your relationships with your mentors now? Like, how often do you guys talk, and like, where did you kind of meet these people and decide to?
Yeah. So like in medical school, we had these like learning community groups. So like they would take our medical school class and divide us up into like a group of 10, and then we'd have like a facilitator,
Mm.
who's like, at that time would be like a senior resident or staff or something. Um,
Mhm.
our facilitator, he was at the time, so now he's not, but at the time he was a third year psychiatry resident. Um, and, uh, certainly communicated with a lot of him, and he was like one of my first mentors because he was a senior resident, so not like too far away from where we were, but like far enough into it that he had a good impression of what like the psychiatric residency experience was like and how to get into it. Um, so I've remained in fair communicate. I mean, he's down in Cincinnati. He's a third year resident then. Now he's like the forensic psychiatry fellowship
Oh,
coordinator
cool.
there or something. So we communicate occasionally. We're um, mostly through Facebook actually. But just checking in. I mean, I've seen him a few times, like when I did my like in residency, when I did like forensic rotation. We had he was on a conference with one of the state hospitals, so checking in, and he's kind of the main person I stayed in touch with. Um, the others, not so much. They were more like clerkship director roles and things. They obviously work with a lot of students as they're trying to figure out what they do, but you know, I I think it's good just to have that relationship now more as a colleague because I think once or twice I've been like, hey, I know this guy in Cincinnati, and there's that name there, so it helps with people in different
Mhm.
parts of the state. Um, so yeah, I hope that answers the question. I'm sorry if I got a little off base.
No, I realized when I asked you the question that it was like five questions in once, which Rachel has been telling me I'm not supposed to do. So sorry to throw all that at you. But in terms of advice that he's given you, like, is there anything that you've taken and kind of incorporated into your life?
Trying to think. So he, I don't know, I'm trying to think if there's anything specific that stood out. I mean, a lot of it was very pragmatic advice, helping with um, getting letters of recommendation or like how to interview and things like that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I can't really think of anything specific. I mean, I think it helped because you know, even though he was in a later stage of his training and career, I mean, I think we were very similar in our personalities and ambitions, and I think we meshed well. And I think just taking advice, general advice from how he got into where he was, and um, seeing his progression was just helpful in helping me coordinate it myself. I can't think of anything like prophetic or mysterious that he said that really stuck with me, but I mean, the whole relationship I
Sure.
think was very, helpful and practical, and he was just a good
That's
guy, and
awesome.
I appreciated his help.
Mm-hmm. That's really cool. And what do you feel? I imagine that there's a lot of challenges with with psychiatry in general and also inpatient psychiatry. What are the greatest challenges you feel you experience at work?
Um, let's see. I think great challenges. Um, I think just really making sure, trying to keep myself like engaged in all the things I want to stay engaged in,
Hmm.
also with the clinical demands as well. Um,
Yeah.
I, so, becoming more expeditious and knowledgeable with that, of course, with the treatment and decision making and all of that, which I expect will continue to come with time.
Hmm.
Um, but, staying involved with the residency, you know, which I'm glad to be able to do because I'm on a teaching team. So, I mean, I'm able to be there, but I want to become more engaged with it, like, um, having some of the more senior attendings have teaching time with them. They may be the staff in their resident outpatient clinic, so becoming more involved with that. Um,
Hmm.
in that too, I mean, I also have some role in the medical student training as well, and I work with the uh, clerkship director to facilitate the inpatient side of the experience um, with our medical students from the Cleveland area institutions. Um, and then also trying to like figure out what kind of the appropriate, because we're in an academic system, like what the appropriate amount of uh, academic work would be or how much research is expected and really finding the balance between clinical, academic, um, teaching, all of that. Um, and then kind of managing, not that like everything seems to be going fine, but, of course, managing expectations that you stay, um, you continue to do your work well, you continue to impress uh, people in your supervisory role, just kind of maintain all the things that um, are expected working for an academic institution. So I
Yeah,
guess that.
that is so many like facets of your life. Do you have protected time for any of those, for teaching or for the medical student project?
Yes. The fortunate thing is, sorry, my lights are going to turn off if I don't create some movement. Um, yeah, the fortunate thing is that there's a lot of flexibility. So I mean, the main thing is I have to do my inpatient work. Those 8 to 10 patients have to be addressed, but the um, with the consult time in the afternoon, I'm able to adjust that accordingly to um, keep up with the, medical student needs, keep up with their evaluation and meeting needs, to make time for the journal clubs that occur with the residents, um, to, um, as long as there's something relevant in that I need to do related to one of those things, I can adjust that other afternoon time accordingly. Um,
Mm.
which has been good. I mean, that element of flexibility to fit in those other responsibilities. Um, Sometimes it can get a little messy and things overlap and things get pushed back a little bit, but in general, it works out pretty well in that regard.
Yeah. When you have those days that like it feels like you have more to do than is possible to accomplish, like how do you approach it? How do you cope with those days?
Sure. So, there are those days where I'm here longer than I would like to be, and it happens. But
Hmm.
it's just, seeing what things I have in front of me and with an ER console that should be done first, so it gets into the system. And, if I still have some notes or documentation left from the people who are still in the hospital, putting that in priority behind that. And then,
Hmm.
those evaluations that are non-urgent, putting that behind that and just approaching things sequentially. I mean, it'll get done, but sometimes there's just more things to do in one day than another.
Hmm. And when you put those things sequentially, if there's ever a time when you're like, okay, this is it for the day, do you have trouble kind of disconnecting? And are you thinking about it at home? Is what I'm getting at. Or are you able to?
Sometimes, sometimes there's that element of anxiety when you have somebody um, on the inpatient unit, particularly